Estás viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
A Time for True show is sponsored by the Office of Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, a periodontal, dental implant and laser specialist in New York City, for over 40 years. Dr. Fialkoff was honored by the International College of Dentists and Pierre Fauchard, and received the Presidential Lifetime Humanitarian Honor from the White House. Call us at 718-229-3838.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got. But the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Welcome to A Time for True show. I'm your host, Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, and it's a pleasure to have you back with us today. And we have a very important show because it deals with the security of our loved ones, our young children. And a very interesting man who's an inventor and came up with a solution to something that's very, very important and that we're very lucky to have with us today, all the way from Detroit. And engineer, if you put his pictures up on the screen, his name is Mr. William McMurray, a married family man from the Detroit area who invented something called the rack that you see there on the television screen. He has an MBE in business, economics, and political science from Oakland University. And he founded the American Rack in 2007 after conducting years of research on reliable gun protection products. Mr. McMillan is an inventor, founder, and manufacturer of personal protective equipment, firearm storage systems, protective backpacks, clothing, and other such accessories, with 5 United States patents and trademarks on his product line. And there you see him on the screen. Initially, he was a customer service trainer and unit leader for Comerica Bank. And he went on to investigate labor claims and practices for the unemployed, welfare, Social Security, and wage matters. He is partnered with world-renowned manufacturing partner GSA Contractor and is a member of the National Shooting Sports Foundation, Omega Psi Phi, and Nu Gamma fraternities. Mr. McMillan is a recipient of 5 awards from the state of Michigan and the U.S. government as an interstate benefits investigator for the Labor Department. He was also awarded for customer interface with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. His American Rack has been fortunate in receiving GSA approval and product compliance under the California state law. It answers the call for Americans that want firearms to be secured responsibly, providing a solution to gun theft and unauthorized usage, something that's been very, very important across the country. And engineer, if you will, I'd like to bring William McMillan up live on our show and bid him a warm welcome to A Time for True show.
How are you?
You got well, you know what? Let's get right to your show, because you know you're an amazing guy, an inventor and manufacturer, and your trademarks, and you've got this product that's so important. But first, I want to start out with you. When you were a young guy, what were your dreams and your visions for your life?
That's a great question, Dr. Bernard. First of all, I'm honored to be here with you. You're a first-class act. I enjoy time hanging out with you, playing basketball. You're my teammate, and I care about you. So thank you for this opportunity to set this platform. We're here for a serious subject. That is to save kids from dying from firearm death. The RACK is an anti-theft and storage system that I invented to keep kids from dying, from finding guns in the home, finding guns outside, finding guns in cars, and then not knowing what to do with it. So if a kid finds a gun, the first thing they should do is stop. Don't touch it. Then they should immediately find an adult and let them know about the gun. What happens usually though is the kid finds the gun, they pick it up, and then something goes wrong, and either they shoot themselves or they shoot others. On average, 2,600 kids are killed by guns every year. Henry, I'm on a call. I'm sorry. You never know who's calling. They might need gun racks. Basically, I planned on being a baseball player because I love baseball. And I thought I would be a baseball player with the Detroit Tigers, but it didn't turn out like that. One of my friends who I loved and I played baseball with found his mother's gun, and his name was Adonis, and he died. And that I never got shook from that. That always bothered me. So one day when I was sitting at my good government job that you spoke on earlier, working for the Labor Department, I started doodling on how to create the first product that could stop guns from getting in the wrong hands. And that's how the RACK was invented in 2001. So I've had patents since 2001, and the RACK has been around the world. I sell it to police departments around the world, and we sold over 480,000 racks. And our number one thing that we're most proud of, we give 100% money back guarantee, and nobody has ever asked for their money back. So we did a good job of manufacturing this product, and we're very proud of that. But what we want today, Dr. Bernard, is to get our product in the homes of everybody in America who has kids and guns. Our initiative is to get the RACK to be a public good. Master Lock has set the table for that. Since the Reagan administration, Master Lock has got over $30 billion to give away cable lock and trigger lock. And you know what? The cable lock is cool, but it's not really sufficient in 2023 and beyond. So again, I don't bash any of my competition. I just let you choose. Would you rather have a cable lock or a trigger lock, or would you rather have the RACK? And we believe that if we compare, people will want the RACK. The difference in the RACK is that we have a product that can be mounted to any surface, wall, car, any surface. And once the RACK is installed, it prevents unauthorized use of your gun. And that's the biggest thing. Would you like to leave your kids in the house with a gun that's not locked up on the RACK or locked up in some kind of method that's pretty dependable? And so we believe that the RACK is definitely a better alternative than cable locks and trigger locks. And now we want it to be the public good that people use to keep their firearms safe. So every city council, every mayor, every governor, we ask them to believe in safe storage so we can protect our kids. Kids don't have no choice on what parents bring into the house. So all we saying is the government pays money every month for food stamps and Medicare and Social Security. We ask the government to do a one-time voucher for $250, and we will give them a safety, a prevention and education program. We will give them a RACK. They got to sign a pledge for it, though, and say they're going to be responsible. Then they got to sign a waiver for installation, and then we will come to your house and install a RACK in your home. So, Dr. Bernard, I just want to show the RACK real.
Well, you know what? Before you do, let's do one thing, because you brought up some very good points, and I want to have the audience catch up to speed with everything that you already know. Engineer, do you have the video ready?
if you store your guns properly.
So not just anyone can get to them.
I'll feel safer when I'm playing outside.
Safer when walking home.
I won't have to tell so many family members. I'm sorry.
I won't hear as many scary stories. Or scary news reports.
I won't have to hold someone's hand and shout you're gonna make it.
And I won't have to tell my kids, this isn't a drill.
Please.
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 Do it for us.
For us. Do it for us.
Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. Never let your gun get into the wrong hands. If you own a firearm and are not using it, please be responsible and be sure that it's stored in a safe place. Remember, always, lock it up.
Well, children and guns remain such a problem in this city. Children as victims of gun violence in Detroit, such a familiar story. Our records show this year alone, 6 children under the age of 10 have been shot in separate incidents in Detroit. 4 of those children died. 4 of the shootings involved.
So, you know, that really shows the importance of the product that you have. And you were about to show us the rack, so go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Bernard. And again, if you went a little further in that video, you could see that we get corporate sponsorship from our energy company, from the casinos we have in Detroit. They've all given us $50,000, $100,000 to give away racks in the city of Detroit. But this is how it works. This is a 40 caliber Smith & Wesson. Okay, and again, we never put loaded firearms on the device. So we put the gun on the rack to keep it from hurting anybody or being stolen or used against me. So if you see closely, you see the trigger house. That's the area behind the trigger. So the rack is unique because with the rack, you have that third arm that's in the middle. So it goes behind the trigger and in front. Then it comfortably goes on the rack. Then you just swing from the back, and now nobody's going to steal your firearm. You will never get a call that your child is dead or found the gun because this is your prevention and education. In 2023 and beyond, Dr. Bernard and I and the team are going to help you know that we got to say no to drugs and we got to say yes to safe storage. No to drugs and yes to safe storage. And when the rack is in effect, you need not ever worry about your gun being stolen because it can't be accessed on the rack. This is a prevention product. This is insurance that your firearm will be exactly where you left it. And we're going to get these installed in every home in America that have firearms because we're going to get our congressmen, our mayors, our city council to demand that the rack is the new standard to replace trigger locks and cable locks. They had their chance for 40 years. Since the Reagan administration, they've got $1.2 billion on average every year. You go to your local police station or city hall or sheriff's department and get a cable lock and a trigger lock. Every time one of those cases that you've seen in the little preview just now of one of them kids dying, the police chief or the sheriff comes on TV and say, come get your cable lock, come get your trigger lock. But guess what? Nobody's running to get them. We're going to have a very high profile campaign. We're going to use celebrities like Bobby Hunter, basketball stars. We're going to use celebrities like Drake and Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B. We're going to use basketball stars like Shaquille O'Neal and John Morant and Tyson, all the people from the athletes that people listen to, because our young parents from 20 to 45 is the main group in which these guns are getting in the wrong hands. We all heard the story. The 6-year-old in Norfolk, Virginia, knew how to get the gun from his family, take it to school, and shoot his first grade teacher. Okay, who does that? But because it happens more frequently every day, we want the rack, like I said, to be a one-time voucher. Family has to go on our website and request the rack. Once they request a rack, we batch them through zip code, and then we get a team of installers to go out after they sign the pledge and say they want a rack. They sign a waiver for installation, and then we will install the rack inside their home, apartment, trailer, camp, wherever they are. We just
well, you know, Bill, it makes a lot of sense. Let me ask you a question, because I see that you're a real people person. Have you always been a very strong communicator?
You know, I think that God has given me that ability. You know, I'm a recovering person as well. I got 26 years. If God let me get to October 6, 2023, I had 26 years clean and sober. And I just think that that has really been my platform, that I got a second chance. And I encourage all of you, because we live in a very trying world, and we understand that medication and drugs and alcohol sometimes become our medication and our coping mechanism. And we also dealing with dual diagnosis with people with mental illnesses as well. So I'm one of the people that will stand up right now and tell you, if you need help, go get it. Don't be ashamed to ask for help. See Dr. Bernard, see people that in your community that love you, and ask them, can you show me where to go? Can you refer me to a good doctor, a good psychiatrist, a good therapist, a good treatment center? Because without me recovering October 5th, 1997, without me starting that journey to recovery, I could have never invented that product 4 years later, 2001. I invented that product with a clean mind and a clean body, and I'm grateful for the program of Narcotics Anonymous and AA, and I'm thankful for my therapist and my meeting and my groups and my sponsors and reading the big book and the Narcotics Anonymous book so I could get clean. Whoever has a problem with me being a recovering addict, that's their problem. I don't worry about what other people think. I'm proud of my recovery, and I'm telling you, everybody here is dysfunctional in somehow. But the sooner that you figure out what your dysfunction is and start working on it, that's when you get better opportunities. That's when God blesses you with more opportunities and more blessings.
Right. Well, you know what? You're really a success story, how you turn your life around. And, when we met at the World Mayors Conference recently, we were talking about bringing drug-free world education, and everything that you're saying makes total sense for the viewers out there. Is like you said, with preventing the gun violence, we want to prevent the drug violence. And the United Nations in 2016 concluded basically, like what you've said, is that we have to prevent drug abuse, drug addiction, drug death. And that's why we have this program, the Foundation for a Drug-Free World. And like you have the gun rack to prevent untimely death, we have the Drug-Free World Education to prevent untimely drug addiction and death and all the things we've been seeing around the world. Let me ask you a question, because you're a very successful CEO with the gun rack. What community changes do you want to see in our country? What do you think needs to change in our communities nationwide?
Thank you, Dr. Bernard. Let me just say this. God is in control. I feel that we're fighting a spiritual war, and you're fighting good and evil. And the bottom line is, we have to get back to a simpler time, the time that me and you were young boys, 10, 11, 12 years old. The world might not have been perfect, but it was a lot more respect. It was a lot more dignity. There was a lot more loyalty. It was just a simpler time. People respected each other. They were polite to older people. They wasn't quick to fight and shoot each other. They wasn't quick to argue. We need to get back to that, because everything now is super fast. I got to get it right now. I got to get it right now. We need to slow down. We need to look at a situation that confronts us and don't immediately jump on the defensive or the offensive to try to even the score, get back at somebody. Road rage, active shooter situations, all of that stuff comes from people not really playing the tape all the way through and realizing that everybody has the right to survive and should be respected. So what I would like to see change is more access to mental health. I would like to see change more access to treatment. I would like to see change safe storage laws, that people are required to keep their firearms safe, and if they don't, there will be stricter penalties if their gun is obtained and they haven't done all the due care that they should have did to keep that gun safe from their children and from being stolen. I think that we have the right to bear arms. I'm a firm Second Amendment person. We do have the right to bear arms, but we have the responsibility to bear them responsible. So some states have had laws that require people to buy a safe or a storage system, or they had to use their cable lock or trigger lock that was given to them through the Child Safe Project, but they're not using it. They're not compelled to do it. You know, Bill Clinton in 1998 had an executive order, and that's only good until you're not the president anymore. So it was an executive order to put trigger locks and cable locks in the box of every gun that was purchased from 1998 to 2000. But as soon as he left office, that requirement was no longer there. The state of Oregon today, about 2 years ago, passed a law that if you have a gun in Oregon, it must be secured or you can get in trouble. That's the precedent that I would like to set in every city, every state. But again, starting with just sensible gun laws like safe storage requirements is a start. If we could do that here in Michigan with our legislator and our governor, I think that would be a good start, because there's billions of dollars for gun violence reduction. There's billions of dollars for safe storage and gun safety from the Biden administration. But again, the cities, the city councils, the governors, the counties have to ask for that money. And we feel that the RAC would bring down those statistics if they use the RAC the same way they tried to use the cable lock and trigger lock for the last 40 years. I'm saying give us a chance. I think that we can bring those statistics down.
Well, you know, looking at that product and how it secures everything, you can see how efficient it is. I want to ask you something, because your life so far has been very, very full of everything. And, you know, you pushed it up and going up higher and higher with your mantra. So when it's all said and done and somebody talks about William McMurray, what would you like them to think of you? What would you like people to think of you?
Well, Dr. Bernard, I really, at 60 years old, I'm really changing into being a nice, humble man that's really accepting his wonderful grandchildren and my beautiful children, and my mother, thank God, is still alive. And I'm so grateful for everything that God has blessed me with. It's really not about any material things for me. It's really about just leaving a legacy that I did something positive and I left the world a little better than it was. I just want the RAC really to be the new standard, and I want everybody to have at least a RAC. In some cases, people need a safe. Some people need other things, but buy something. But my legacy is just that I tried to be a decent man. I tried to teach people about history and economics and politics and God. You know, this pen that I have right here is my 25 years clean pen, and I wear it very proudly, because I'm very, without my recovery, I really don't think none of this was possible. Without me getting off drugs and alcohol in 1997, I don't think that that I would have all these blessings and opportunities. So I would just tell everybody that my legacy is just to be the best person I can, and let God be glorified and magnified with the actions. This ain't nothing that William's doing. I'm just a conduit. I'm just a servant of the God, and I'm trying to do his will. And I pray for that every morning, that I communicate effectively and I try to be something that's pleasing in his eye.
Absolutely. You know, I think that's a definitely great way to be remembered, and a way to live, and really to interact, like you said, with family, with the community, and to change it, really. Because, you know, too many people in our world today, everything is about money and like you said, instant gratification. But when you get really all said and done, if we didn't have each other, all of these things that we take for granted, would not exist, wouldn't be there. I want to ask you something, because you kind of went over it, but not really. So in your head and in your mind, what is it that you hung on to that made your decision to just stay clean? Because I know there's people watching this show, aside from the people who are watching because of the safety with guns, there's going to be other people watching who maybe are experiencing some difficulty, whether it be with alcohol, whether it be with drugs. What do you think was, really quickly, the key of why you were able to succeed?
Amen, Dr. Bernard. You're a very good interviewer and friend. So I really think it's a combination of things that have to happen in the individual's life, because the steps is real. First step is that you got a problem. You got a problem with weed. You got a problem with crack. You got a problem with alcohol. You got a problem with sexual abuse. You got a problem with whatever. You got to identify the problem. Then the second step is that your life has totally became insane as a result of you having that first problem. And then the key for me, and I hope most people, is number 3. You have to make a decision. And I mean that. You have to make a decision, which means decisive, that you're going to ask God to remove it. And for people that don't believe in God, of course, the higher power can be whatever they choose to be. But for me, I had to make a decision that I would ask God to remove this insanity and this problem. And so I went to meetings every day for the first 3 years. I didn't miss a meeting. I went sometime to 2 meetings. And I would go to a meeting and I would ask God to please let somebody say something that you'd be talking to me through them. So I would listen very carefully to what everybody said. And again, that goes back to the respect of others. If you close-minded and you ain't listening, you know it all, you can't learn nothing new. So I was open to listen. And God truly spoke to me and told me something every meeting, because I was willing to listen. And that kept me coming every day. Then I realized after I had 10 days clean, 30 days clean, that even though I had the urge to go on and go back, I didn't have any reservations. Let me repeat that. I might have had the urge to go back, but I didn't have any reservations. And if you have reservations, trust me, you usually go and fulfill them reservations. But you can't have reservations or you will use again. So I knew that I was through with it. I had enough pain. I had enough problems that I knew that using drugs and alcohol would never solve my problem. And I was going to go on and try to do it with a clear mind and a clear body without any mind changing, mood changing substances in my life. And so I went on and got a therapist. The therapist helped me work through some of the
you know what, Bill? I got to tell you, unfortunately, we run out of time. We talk and cover a lot of important things. And I think, like what you said here at the end, I want to reemphasize, no reservations. Be decisive. For those of you watching out there, take William McMurray's life, his intensity, his communication, apply it in your own life. Take a look, see what needs to be fixed, decide, have no reservation like he said, and let's go ahead and fix it. If you want to look at something in terms of gun safety, look at his rack. If you want to look at the drug problem, the alcohol problem, check out drugfreeworld.org. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Dr. Bernard. I really appreciate you, man.
You have a good night. And for those of you watching, we'll see you on the next episode of A Time for Truth show.
This show was sponsored by A Time for Truth Foundation Incorporated as a community service.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but Only God knows that you've given everything you've got. The world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your feet